An antibiotic a day keeps the resistance away. That's what the doctors should be saying with the new antibiotic resistance problems.
Antibiotic resistance is a topic that has recently become relevant due to the common events that have been happening. People have been using antibiotics more often, and eventually, like with anything, if you use one thing enough, there's bound to be consequences.
If you don't finish your prescription of antibiotics, then the bacteria in your body becomes resistant to the drug, rendering it useless and leaving you stuck with your sickness. This all happens because of natural selection.
There are 4 different factors that go along with natural selection: the environment, excess babies, variation, and an increase in fitness for some traits.
First of all, the environmental factor means that the organisms that have the best traits to fit a certain environment are the ones who will be the most likely to survive.
Secondly, if there is an excess amount of reproduction, there would be a huge amount of babies and an increase in population, resulting in not enough resources to sustain a population. This competition leads to only the best bacteria, meaning best suited to that environment, reproducing. When certain bacteria die and resistant strains do not, this leads to an overproduction of offspring of the resistant strains. This then causes the population to change and the individuals with the best traits to fit the environment live.
Next, there is variation. There is a variety of genes in any given population. These different genes make individuals have different traits. The trait of antibiotic resistance is a variation of genes. These bacteria are sometimes able to fight off antibiotics better than regular bacteria. This is due to these bacteria being reproduced with a random genetic mutation that makes them resistant to the antibiotics.
Lastly, an increase of fitness means that some individuals have traits that are better fit to an environment than other organisms, such as better camouflage or a better size for surrounding. Organisms with these traits have an advantage over ones who have traits that don't fit in with the environment as well, so they are more likely to survive than the ones with a disadvantage. This leads to the generation following to be more likely to have these traits passed down.
The factor of natural selection that has the biggest impact on a population would be increase of fitness for some traits, because this is what allows some organisms to survive over other life forms.
Natural selection has had an impact on all plants and animals. One example is shown through the peppered moth during the Industrial Revolution.
When the forest got coated with smoke from the factories burning coal, all the trees turned dark, causing the light moth population to decrease. If there were 2 light moths and 2 dark moths in a dark forest, predators such as birds would eat the light moths because the dark moths would be camouflaged against the dark trees.
If the same moths were in a light forest, the birds would eat the dark moths because the light moths would be more camouflaged against the light trees. Therefore, this change in environment would have an imbalance of colored moths. There were either more light moths in forests with light-colored trees or more dark moths in forests with dark-colored trees. This process is called natural selection, where the environment randomly changes in a non-random way.
Natural selection occurs in populations of bacteria the same way it does with peppered moths.
Antibiotics are introduced when a person has a bacterial infection that their white blood cells cannot fight. Natural selection allows some bacteria to survive the antibiotic attack while others are killed off. This is due to some of the bacteria having mutations that make them resistant to antibiotics. These bacteria survive while the ones without the immunity do not. Bacteria pass down their mutation genes to their offspring, creating a population of bacteria that is resistant to the antibiotic medicine. The natural selection occurring here can be very harmful to people. Eventually, we may run out of drugs that work.
There are many short-term and long-term effects of having bacteria with antibiotic resistance. Some effects we are not even aware of yet. Here are a few of each. Some short-term effects include needing to use a different drug because the antibiotics will not work anymore. Some long-term effects include having no drugs that treat these bacteria, people dying quickly and easily from simple things like from a scratch or an infection, and superbacteria invading the body easily.
As you can see, there are many consequences involved in not taking your antibiotics. Not taking them causes problems for not only yourself, but those around you, because you end up developing resistant strains of bacteria that our modern antibiotics aren't able to get rid of. So next time you've got an infection, just remember, an antibiotic a day keeps the resistance away.